Okay, here's what I want to tell you. I am a, you know this about me. I am a very fortunate human being. I have so many lovely other human beings I draw into my life, and they teach me lessons. And often I get kind of a little serendipity as my friend. Serendipity pushes me anger, that kind of thing. They're not in a regulated state. And if you're trying to help them and you're not regulated, well, then you can't be of much help to them. So the thought is you have to regulate yourself first so that you can regulate the other person and then kind of move forward, right? And so I've learned a lot of these little I've been exposed to a lot of these little self-regulation type things, which I now call self-optimization. I think that's a more accurate term, right? So these little tips, tricks, things that you can do. And some of them are surprisingly simple. Some of them seem like bizarre, but if they work for you, they work for you, right? That's the reality of it. So if it works, hallelujah, like use it, right? So anyways, there is this one part I learned. I started with the somatic experience thing, and that's by this guy called Peter Levine. This is from like the 60s. And in essence, it's where the body, of course, stores trauma. And then if that trauma doesn't get resolved properly, then that continues to cause challenges with a person in terms of their health if that trauma remains and all of the emotion attached with it. And so one of the things he had was definitely an ACEs type thing, even though it wouldn't be one of the 10s. One of his first patients was a woman, 28 years old, I believe she was, but as a younger, when she was like 5, she was like held down, restrained to get dental work. And for her, this was this horrible event that it really impacted her ability, especially in kind of a medical setting. Her anxiety would go up immediately and, those kind of things. So anyways, the thought was he would go and try and resolve where this anxiety, where this pain was stored within the body and try and find a way to release that, right? Okay, that's pretty cool. And then Stephen Porges kind of, I think, expanded on that. To me, it's an expansion with this polyvagal theory. And this polyvagal theory is basically that there's this, and vagus, I guess, is Latin for wanderer. And this vagus nerve is from your brainstem, and of course, throughout your brain as well. And then right through your core, through all your organs, and basically kind of terminates in your pelvic floor. To the big hole. They think they're their own little island and they just keep replicating like crazy, but they're replicating like crazy, these damaged cells, and then you get a tumor. So that seems to be the way it is. So anyways, disconnection is a problem. The vagus nerve is the connection between your brain and your body. But there's three different ways that vagus connection can function for you. One is the disconnection, the disassociation one. And so that is like extreme fear. You are totally unsafe. Nothing you can do about it. You are a gazelle in the jaws of the cheetah. You're like just limp, done, that kind of a thing. And that's
the water buffalo.
Exactly. Most of that. Yeah.
I keep working towards my gazelle form, but so far we're a water buffalo.
All right, fair enough. Good one. So anyways, that's that disassociation type thing. It's just basically your brain is saying this being is going to have a whole bunch of pain. We're just going to flood them with a bunch of painkillers, and they're not going to do anything because they're totally kind of disconnected, disassociated. They're kind of out of it for all intents and purposes, and it is a protective type thing that your body does. The next is the dorsal ventral. And the dorsal ventral is fear. You're still in a fear state. You're still in an unsafe state, but you're motivated to act. You're motivated to fight. You're motivated to move. You're motivated, like you've got that. So fear still, and it's going to express as anger mostly, right? Anger or perhaps violence is what's going to happen from the dorsal ventral. And then the dorsal vagus. And then the ventral vagus. If you could get to here, ventral vagus, this is a pretty cool place, because in this place, here's what's happening. Your body is saying, I'm safe. I'm totally good here. I don't have to worry about anything. And then in that space, instead of being all on alert and all protective and all looking out for threats, your body says, hey, go ahead and restore, get better, fix what, hey, that knee needs a little touch up, give it a little bit of work. And, let's get our endorphins optimized. And it just kind of, it's the healing part of that where your body can heal, right? Because it's not working on all the fear things. It's in a safe space so it can kind of rejuvenate. It's kind of like where you're on a vacation, right? You're in your ventral state, you're relaxed and laying back, and the sun's in your face, and your body's just resting and recovering, and that kind of a thing. And then further, it connects to your prefrontal cortex, where you can access the best parts of being a human being, right? So you can access imagination and intuition and the intelligence, and there's an argument for kind of the collective intelligence, the collective compassion, the collective, peace and love and joy, right? That when you're in that space. So throughout your whole body, very good place for your body to heal, very good place for you to be present in and enjoy like the best functioning of you as a human being, right? That you're relaxed and the thoughts come easy, things make sense, it's easy to learn, it's easy to string words together, to have a conversation, everything just kind of flows, right? So this ventral vagus, pretty cool place, right? So now, how do you get here to this ventral vagus place? How do you get your polyvagal experience where you got more ventral? Well, there's many ways. One of the ways is singing. No big surprise. Singing is amazing. For people who are watching that don't know this, I sing every day on YouTube and Facebook. And I know that it has been a super healthy thing for me. I've lost weight, my body's toned up, my memory's working well, my ability to kind of to speak and put phrases together, I think, is improved. So anyways, it's singing is one way. But it's not the only way. There's lots of different ways. And you know what? Some of them would surprise you, because some of them are a little odd. There's ones like get you there, tapping, right? And tapping, it's like, there's spots, meridian points where you tap. There's people that do this all the time. I've tried it before, really not my thing. There's breathing, right? And there's all kinds of different ways you can breathe, right? And those breathing ways, you can breathe for energy, you can breathe for relaxation, you can breathe for presence, right? You can obviously use it as a focal point when you meditate in order to stay in the present moment better. And of course, what other what tools are the best tools for you to self-optimize are those that are always with you and that you can do by yourself, that you don't need anybody else to do it, right? So your breath, always with you, always within something you can access at any point, right? The tapping is certainly something you could do anywhere as well, right? Even things like humming is also something that gets you there. And also body movements. I have found, and this was totally just serendipitous, when I was initially, when I started singing and streaming it, I was singing in the hot tub, and I had visions about making the hot tub singing as being an Olympic event. I thought, wouldn't that be fun? And then I did that for a while, and then I started, you know what, I can sing better when I'm standing. I'm going to start standing up to sing. So then I started having this little gig here, and I've tried 15 different microphones and found this beauty here. So anyways, I started standing to sing, and standing, of course, makes good sense. You have way better, working of your diaphragm, way better ability to move, those kind of things. And the only problem I had is my right knee, which is like worn out, was getting sore. About 40 minutes it would get sore, so I had to quit, right? My voice was fine, but my knee I couldn't stand anymore. So then I started, well, I got to move. I got to keep that knee moving to keep it mobilized, because once I walk a little bit, it's good. It's just the standing that's a problem. So then while I'm singing, I started moving. And when I started moving, I started realizing, oh my goodness, that adds a lot to this experience. And so then I started doing it all the time. So now when I'm having a Zoom meeting with somebody, I will often just move just a little bit of rhythmic rocking, and I do it. And I find that gets me, it immediately increases my energy. So if I'm low mood, elevates my mood. It immediately gets me more into this present moment, so I can focus better on where I am right now and relish in this moment. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not thinking about the past. I'm engaged in this moment. And so brings up your energy, brings up your mood, and gets you more focused in this present moment. That's ventral vagus. That's ventral vagus right there. And it's so, everybody's got to have a switch, a key, a way to turn it on. I know what mine is now, and so mine is just moving, just a little bit of movement. I'm doing it right now. I'm just kind of rolling my hips a little bit while I'm chatting with Scott here. And for me, that ups my energy level and keeps me more present in this conversation, and feels really good too. So, yes.
Well, and so your other big one, singing, right? Those are your main ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When I was doing researching, there was a couple that stuck out to me, and I don't know if you've ever tried them. One was immersing your face in cold water.
I've never heard that.
And which I found really interesting, because when I went to Korea from Japan, the sento, or the public bath, the experience was very different in Korea where I went. And so you went in a very hot bath, but then they had a cold bath that was actually had like ice sheets on the top of it. And so you would go in the very hot bath, and then you would go immerse yourself in the cold water after that. And, it was a shock. And, the first time it was, I won't say it wasn't painful, but it was certainly not pleasant. But then when you sort of just let the process happen, a lot of what you're talking about as being part of the vagal nerve starts to kick in, and you feel expanded, and you feel calm. And so I found that really interesting, because I'd sort of experienced that one. And
and now that you say it, I've had a similar, hot tub and then get out in the snow kind of a thing, right? I've had that kind of experience. And do you know that guy? Oh, geez, what's his name again? Dutchman, who can swim underwater in ice water for a half hour or something stupid. It's just incredible. Yeah. And so from that, Corolla started taking cold showers, right? Because the cold, to condition your body to kind of invigorate your body, and I would believe get you in that ventral vagus place, right? So, yeah.
So that was I thought that was pretty cool. And then, like you said, the polyvagal nerve runs all over. And there's a whole school of stimulating that nerve through your ear massage.
Massage.
Yeah. And really simple, something you can do yourself, doesn't really depend on your condition. You can be in a wheelchair and still, do that. And I thought, oh, that's worth looking into, right? Yeah. She was pulling and rubbing and doing and talking. And I know certainly I'm a sucker for a massage. And I know that there's a lot of traditional massages that work on the ears and the head. And when I was just looking into tonight's discussion, that was one of the ones that came up. And you can find that online. Just go looking for it. So,
yeah. There's so many different ways. And like, I'm not saying my way is the only way, because there isn't. There's a lot of different ways. But basically, if you find a way, and if you think about this, if you can find a way to the ventral vagus that you're in a calm state where all your needs are met, you don't need anything, right? Then you're going to be, that's a beautiful place to be, to enjoy that present moment, right? In contrast, let's say you're in a low energy, low mood, and you're really kind of dissatisfied with the present moment. If you don't change how you're experiencing that present moment, what are you going to do? You or I, if we're dissatisfied with our present moment, how would normally we go about trying to change that?
Something different?
Well, something I find, and maybe it's just me. How about snacking on some junk food?
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? You're not in the place you want to be, so you wanted to be in a different place. And you can't really say, you can't even verbalize that you're not where you want to be, but you're gonna have some sugary snacks, or have alcohol, or something to change your current present moment, because it's not pleasing to you to be in that present moment, right? So
looking for external, I think you can lump all of that in to external stimulus. We're really looking for something outside of ourselves to change ourselves, which is
exactly
kind of silly, right? I mean,
yes, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at, is that there's a song by the Eagles, and part of the lyrics is, so you take a little something to make them go away. Right, you're not in a good place, so you take a little something to make them go away. So, and that's kind of, I think, the state that if we're not aware of it, we just feel off, and then to make us feel better, we eat, we drink, we whatever, we do things, we watch crap, like the equivalent of junk food on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, right? the equivalent there, we do that. But if we can just kind of stimulate the change in this present moment to a more pleasant present moment, we don't need any of those other things. We can do it ourselves, right? And so if it's ear massage, if it's getting a massage, if it's giving somebody a foot rub, giving a foot rub is just about as good as getting one. So, giving a foot rub as an example, any of those kind of things, if it can change you into the ventral vagus state. And there's a whole thing on music to do this as well, not like singing. Singing is great, but if you don't want it, just listening to music. So there's this group through ILS, I think it is called, that have basically music that you subscribe to their music service, which is designed to kind of get you into the ventral vagus state, kind of a thing, right? And a lot of times you can just even look up, serotonin producing music, or any of those kind of ones, or increase your frequency type music, right? There's tons of those kind of ones that just listening to, maybe meditating while you're listening to them, will change your state, kind of a thing. Or a physical, having the extreme of hot and cold, having the ear massage. It makes sense that would work, right? Having a hug is a huge thing, right? Even in some of them, you hug yourself. It's just basically the kind of the bilateral connection for you makes a difference. Another lady that I was talking about, she was saying about basically kind of having a tapping thing here, where you're accessing your prefrontal cortex and your brainstem, if you will, right? And trying to kind of encourage that connection, encourage movement up into your neocortex to the best functioning you can have, right? So
when I was looking at the triggers, there was another one that sounded really good to me, because you could do it without anyone knowing you're doing it. And it would be great for in meetings, or during a stressful meeting, or you're listening to somebody.
What is it, Scott? Oh my goodness, this is a good tip. What is it?
I've heard of it in other contexts, actually special forces and people who have to keep their biology at a certain level when they're making decisions and life and death sort of things. And that's left, right nostril breathing. And so
right nostril breathing.
Yeah. So the quick simple is you breathe out longer than you breathe in. And when you're first learning, sometimes it's easier to hold one nostril. So you breathe in from, let's say, our right side, right? And then we switch, hold it for a second, and then we exhale through our left side. Okay. And then once you practice that a few times, you don't have to hold your nose anymore. And that's where the beauty of this one is because you can practice it when somebody's talking. It's kind of like your movement. You can do it while you're doing other things, but if you're not in a situation where it's appropriate to be moving back and forth, you can practice left, right nostril breathing. And so you can go online, you look it up. There's all kinds, like there's books on doing it, but essentially it's breathe out longer than you breathe in, pause before you switch, and whatever nostril you breathe in through, breathe out through the other one. And this was listed as one of the ways. And I know that it's used for calming people down and sort of slowing down their biofeedback loop when they're in stressful situations, pilots, operators, all sorts of things. And when I was looking up the polyvagal nerve, that was listed as one of the ways to engage it. Yes. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool because you can do it really sort of silently, kind of the ninja way.
Yes.
That's great. It doesn't require any, overt movement. So like you said, lots of different ways. I think what we should say at this point too is, I can hear people out there saying, well, what proof is there? If this was so good and such a miracle, why hasn't my doctor told me to do this?
Yeah, and that's a good question, Scott.
So do you want to answer that one?
No, because I don't know the answer. What is the answer?
Well, I think the answer is that it's an incredibly diverse part of our human system, and it affects a lot of different systems, and it affects a lot of different pathways. It's activated in different people in different ways, and it doesn't lend itself really well to a scientific study. So that, where you isolate one thing and you have a look at that and you can control all the variables. And, as we've talked about, there's all kinds of evidence that it's activated or stimulated by vibration, by singing, by movement. How do you isolate those things to do a study? So studies have been done, and, there's a lot of evidence that something's going on. But in terms of a definitive answer where you could write somebody a prescription for that, it's absolutely not there yet, right?
Yeah, well, further to that, now I agree with it and makes sense what you're saying, Scott. Further to that, in a profit-driven healthcare system, how is anybody going to make money on saying, do this, breathe this way, or tap this way, or move your body this way to access this nice experience that's going to help you have better health? Like, who's going to make any money on that gig, right?
You don't believe that big pharma is profit-driven, do you?
No. One thing that drives me crazy. When they take a medication, as you know, in my day job as an employee benefit specialist, we advise clients on programs and services to help them keep them and their team healthy. That's my day job.
Very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
You do our stuff and it's great, and everyone I've talked to uses you. So we're joking. We know that modern medicine has its time and its place, and absolutely carry on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that the reality is, if you come in and say, "Oh, I got low mood" or "I got low energy," it's going to be, "Oh, here's the prescription." Oh, you're out the door, right? Like you've had your 3-minute call, and I'm not saying every medical professional is that way. Matter of fact, let me tell you this story. I'm so excited about this. My bride Corolla.
I do. Wonderful lady.
She's been concerned about her blood pressure because she had kind of a traumatic incident. I'm going to say about 5 years ago, where she had things were happening in her life, and the blood pressure reading that day in the doctor's office was high. And she's always nervous about medical stuff anyways, for lots of reasons, mostly to do from being a little girl and not speaking English and getting medical care when she didn't understand what was going on. But anyways, she's been very, very concerned about the medicine, but doesn't want to take the medicine because the believes that the medicine would be harmful. The side effects of the medicine would be harmful. Once she tried one for a short period of time, caused her to cough like crazy. It was not a good situation. So anyways, but she's really, really worried about this. So we've been taking this plant-based master class, plant-based nutrition master class with this Dr. Michael Clapper. And Dr. Michael Clapper is like, I think he's 73, super spry, sharp, like, and very expressive and very, just a very caring, beautiful human being. Pardon me?
Clap on?
No. Buddy.
Sorry.
That's okay. So anyways, really, really good. And we had a consultation with him just on Wednesday. We had a consultation with him. And I just sat and listened to the consultation. But basically what he said was, Corolla shared her blood pressure numbers and you know, all the things she does and how active she is and all those kind of things. And he said, okay, you are totally fine. You don't need anything. Your health is perfect. Don't don't take blood pressure anymore. Don't throw away the damn machine. You don't need it. You're fine with the lifestyle you're living, the way you eat, how clean you eat, how clean you live, all the activity you're doing. You are going to live to be 110 and have great health, right? And he explained blood pressure that in a way that I'd never heard it before, which makes perfect sense. The first number is kind of the apex of the pressure, right? The highest pressure at the point that the heart is compressing to the heart is to eject the blood out, right? So he said that number could be whatever. If you're lifting weights, that number could be 250, and all that shows you've got a heart chamber, you've got a heart, you know, or you've got a great solid pump, a pump that's working really well. So if that's a high number, that's great. The second number is what's important, because if you have problems in your bloodstream, that your blood vessels are getting rigid because you know, your blood vessels are getting rigid, then the high blood pressure will cause you all kinds of problems. Then you'll see that number will up and will never ever go down. And her number, the second number, is always low. So that says that your vessel is relaxed and contracts, and you know, it contracts and expands so nicely that you have nothing to worry about. It was a beautiful conversation.
Absolutely. I've talked to lots of doctors. High blood pressure runs in my family.
Yes.
And skinny, heavy, doesn't matter. They all the women and half the men have it in my family, right? And so we've talked to doctors a lot about it, and they say exactly the same thing. It's the lower number that's important. Everyone freaks out because the top number is always higher. Yeah. Like you say, that's dependent on so many other things, but that lower number, if it gets unusually low or unusually high, then that can get pretty serious.
Yes, exactly. And most of it's high, where it holds higher pressure instead of releasing, right? So, but great news, right? And here's just like a doctor, instead of it being and I'm not, the medical profession is a tough thing to be in. I'm sure I wouldn't want to be in, having people coming in and I got this and I'm coughing and hacking all over you. Like, you know, I understand that. But the system is so driven that it's, you know, often a 3 to 4 minute thing, and here's your prescription and you're out the door kind of a thing. This was a half-hour consultation. He asked a lot of questions, and it was a lot, you know, now it was kind of building a file, but still, it's somebody who kind of looks at the whole person as opposed to one number and say, we're going to do something about this number, right?
Yeah, and in fairness to doctors, as you know, it's not necessarily the doctor who's driving that system, right? I mean, the insurance they pay, the cost of being a doctor. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, they just must be raking in the money. But, you know, you and I both got friends that are doctors, and we know, you know, the liability insurance and staff insurance and all of these things that they're paying out. And then the government is always pushing, and society, right? I mean, doctors who really care, like we've had the same family doctor for years here in Lethbridge, and he really cares about us. So he wants to see us. He doesn't want to send any of us somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're short doctors in Lethbridge, so doctors want to take on more because they don't want to leave people untreated. And, you know, it's that hamster wheel, right? So the system is just caught up to the point, like you say, where it's, you know, in and out and do what you can and send it out. But
yeah, That's
Sorry.
unfortunate, but that's the way it works, right? The demand, then they have to kind of ration their time, and then everybody gets just a little piece of it, and there isn't time to really have the conversation that
No.
might allow people to feel safer, right? To feel, yes, you have this, but here's the things that kind of mitigate that risk for you, right? Here's some steps that you could take, right? And that there's a conversation that has to have a conversation to make that happen. Whereas, just I'm the doctor, here's the solution, out you go. That's sometimes happens. Great that you have an excellent doctor. That's wonderful. And they're amazing people, and the work that they do is very, very hard work. That is not work that I would ever want to do. And obviously takes somebody very intelligent to be able to understand the human system and how complicated that is.
And all of those frontline workers during the pandemic deserve medals. I mean, they're heroes. And, whether you believe in COVID and the pandemic or not, those people are out there and they're taking that risk. And, they're putting themselves on the line, and they've got families and people that love them. And, they weren't on the top of the list for vaccinating. They weren't on the top of the list for getting, personal protection equipment. So they really deserve medals for that. But I want to go back to what we were talking about when people say, well, what proof is there? Why, who cares? This is junk science. Well, the challenge to that is, what are you going to lose to try? There's no cost, a little bit of time to read a little bit if you want. You've given people enough information right here and right now that they could give it a try. Sing for a while, see if it makes you feel better. Try moving more, see if it feels better. Try, left, right nostril breathing, see if you feel better, if you notice something. So it's a really good bet to take a look at the work that's being done in this area and try it out for yourself. And I think that's what we're encouraging people here is, like you said, we're in a situation now in Lethbridge where we don't have enough doctors, and doctors are leaving, and, it's hard for new people to find a new doctor. And I was having a conversation with somebody that just moved into Lethbridge, and they were basically going from clinic to clinic, and there was no doctors taking on new patients, which is a relatively new situation for us here. But this is an opportunity where you could have some input into your own medical health, into your own well-being. And so that gives a lot of hope to people that either don't have opportunities for that detailed healthcare, or they don't have the time, or, they have trauma associated with healthcare. And I'm very sympathetic to that. Certainly after my coma experience, I was left with trauma and fear associated with that. So I think our goal tonight is really and you did it to me, is you introduced me to the idea. And when I started researching it, we talked a little bit about this, is I found a habit of my own. When I'm concentrating or when I'm under stress, I make noise, kind of humming, kind of chanting, just getting my vocal cords vibrating. And I've had people saying, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, nothing, making noise. And then, they're like, why are you doing that? And my answer has always been, because it feels good, because it makes me happy.
Yes.
And never really having any explanation to why that might make me happy or might make me feel good. And then when I got researching this, because you brought it up, it's like, oh, wow. Hey, that's how that is why it makes me feel good. I mean, other reasons as well, but
yeah, but that's, and that's, I didn't actually put it together until after, right? That I just started doing it for one, to protect my knee, the movement, right? And then realize, oh my, this is, according to the polyvagal theory, this is a way that I'm stimulating my ventral vagus response, right? And any of these things you try, it is real easy, costs you nothing, takes you a few minutes to try it, right? You just Google, I want to try alternate nostril breathing. Here, show me the 5-minute Google on it. All right. And try it. If you feel a little bit more energy, if you feel a little bit elevated mood from it, if you feel a little bit more present in that moment, which you should by having more bodily awareness, right? More awareness of what's going on in your body, then that's a win. And if it's something you can build in and incorporate into your life, do it. It'll make tomorrow a better day.
and that brings up an idea that I've always kept in the back of my head. And when I hear somebody say, "Oh, that's just a placebo," they're feeling better because they think they're taking something. And it's like, really, man, I want in that line, because if I have to take nothing and my body will trick itself into thinking that I'm getting better, and I am, that's the ideal situation, isn't it? Like, I've never understood why people get unhappy because they're not loading themselves up in drugs. Like, a placebo sounds like an excellent solution.
Yes. Yeah. When I first learned of the placebo effect, I was just like, I could not believe it. Right. Placebo means actually to please. Right. That's what the word placebo means. But yeah, it was this to determine if a drug has any efficacy, then it has to beat the placebo at least. And sometimes the margin to beat the placebo is like 1 or 2%. So the placebo impact is like 90% of the effectiveness of the medication, right? So yeah, it's incredible what your body can produce. I mean, you have a factory for making feel good chemicals, right? Like endorphins and oxytocin and there's so many of them. I can't figure out which. There's some that are neurotransmitters and some that are hormones and some, but all of these feel good fluids that your body can produce and distribute everywhere. You got a sore shoulder, man, you can kind of send some of those good vibes over that way, those good fluids over there to kind of heal stuff up a little bit, right? So
I think there's a lot of hope in this message, and I know all I had to do was go in and search the polyvagal nerve. That's what you told me when you said, what are we going to talk about? And, one of the things that first came up was like 12 ways to stimulate your polyvagal nerve. And that's where I started from. And there's online courses, and you can jump into this in any level and to the degree that makes you happy. But ultimately, there's no harm. There's nothing that, I encountered or read that would hurt anyone in any way. I mean, breathing in and out of your left nostril or singing or swaying back and forth is not going to cause anyone any pain or harm. Doesn't interfere with any medication. I mean, that's one of the concerns with homeopathic medicine or alternate medicine is, will it decrease the efficacy of the medicine, or will it interfere with it or cause side effects? Well, in this case, there's nothing interacting that can cause that. So it's completely safe to, research a little, give it a try, and just see if you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's that simple, right?
That's our advice for you. There's this thing called the polyvagal nerve. There's this ventral vagal operation of that nerve. If you can activate that, you will have better energy. You will feel better. It's a very pleasing sensation, and you will be more in this present moment. Costs you nothing to try it. And there's 1,000 ways. 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the earth, Scott. There's 1,000 ways to access your ventral vagal. That's the statement I'm going to make.
Well, and all the ways, I'll step full in here, all the ways that I read to activate it have other benefits as well.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
Obviously movement is good for our cardiovascular system. They say that sitting is the new cancer.
Yes.
So obviously that's good on its own. Singing has been proven to provide all sorts of positive things. Exactly. Cold water on your face is great for your complexion. It's great for your pores. Like, it goes on and on. So there's no downside to trying some of these things. And if you don't like it or it doesn't make you feel any better, you haven't lost anything. Right?
Exactly. So we encourage you to do that. And maybe you'll find a new thing, a new habit that makes each day just a little bit better for you. And then maybe a week from now, you'll find another little thing that you add in, and that will make the next day just a little bit better in the subsequent days. And think of that as, how can I build to get more moments that are beautiful, lovely moments that we're having a life-affirming conversation like the one we have just had right now, Scott Sweetman. That was very enjoyable.
I think we've gotten a situation in our society where we're scared to share things like, hey, you know what? The other night I was doing this and it made me feel kind of lighter and happier.
Yes.
Like, we don't share those things because we're scared of sounding like a kook, or, you know, we want everything to be, oh, I read a report that said,
Right.
you know what I mean? And I think that we miss out on a lot of things. You know, our civilization spread information in very informal and unscientific ways for millennia, right? It's only very recently, as a historian, when you look at the period of recorded history compared to the entire history of the human species, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. And we've gotten rather, I'll say, arrogant in assuming that there is no other way than the way we have it now. And we forget that, you know, our ancestors, for endless generations heading back into the distance or the future, depending on where you fall in that after our time talk of last week, that, you know, really, we're missing out on a tradition that's kept our species alive and growing and maturing and doing all the things that brought us to where we are now. So I do think it's a shame that we don't just share with people, hey, you know, have you ever thought about this? Or I did this, and, you know, I don't know why, but it seemed to work. Because that was the basis of scientific discovery right up until 30, 40 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. So, and part of it, as we already mentioned, the all of these more, what would you call them? Non-invasive, simple, you know, techniques or simple tools to try. Nobody's going to be able to, nobody's going to want to really sell you on these because there's no money to make, right? You know, if you learn how to do it and if it works for you, good on you. You're good to go. I was just actually watching a thing. So I shouldn't say nobody's going to sell to you. There's this Ari Whitman, I think it is. Is it Ari Whitman or Whitten? Ari Whitten, beautiful human being, had a 4-video set where he talked about the energy blueprint, and he talked about your mitochondria. And your mitochondria, what you got to do is you got to bolster those mitochondria. You got to get more mitochondria and have them mitochondria working better. And then
mitochondria.
Exactly. That's right. Massive,
mighty
mitochondria. That's what we need. Mighty mitochondria. Yeah. Nice. I love it. But anyways, how do you get there? Singing is one of the ways, like, you know, moving your body, that kind of thing. Another thing that is just, if you think of Bruce Perry's work, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, he had these kids that were horribly abused, right? So, and in every case, the treatment modalities that were part of it was movement and music. So, like, from my perspective, if you like movement, music, enjoy more of that. Like right now, use it as a preventative health measure. Use it to keep yourself in good health for a longer period of time.
Well, dancing is really interesting because culturally, dancing has been used as a type of old age preventative, right?
Yes.
So communities, dancing was a part of their community gatherings. It was part of daily traditions, you know, getting together and singing and dancing at night around the fire, or, you know, even in their home, clapping and singing together. Everyone knew the words to the songs. And in countries that I've been where that occurs, seniors are often much more lively, they're more limber, because they're continuing that movement. But I also think there's the benefit, as we've been talking about, to your nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, and to your psychology. And, you know, unfortunately, our entertainment has become really sort of focused on, you know, the computer or television, and really singular and observatory rather than participatory.
Go, Scott. I want to jump on that. We got 2 minutes. We got to get off. But I want to tell you quickly that I thought was going to happen in COVID is there'd be a lot less concern about paying to watch somebody do something, paying to watch somebody do a sport, or paying to watch somebody sing or make music or whatever, and more participation. Less observant, more participation. And I think it makes sense, because for any of those activities, how is it better experienced as us as human beings? If we're participants, even if we're not as good, doesn't matter. That we're participating is a way better experience for us, right? So
absolutely. So participate in your own life, man. Live your life and have
hallelujah, Scott Sweetman. That was beautifully said. We'll see you next week.
Take care, buddy. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
see ya.